In the winter of 1860, as the last votes were counted across a tense and divided America, one name slowly rose above the noise: Abraham Lincoln. A man who began his life in a single-room log cabin now stood on the edge of history. His election as the 16th president wasn't a celebration for all, it was a signal, a warning, and for many, the final straw. The country he was about to lead was already breaking apart. Lincoln won the presidency without a single vote from most Southern states. Southern leaders saw his victory not as a political change, but as an existential threat. Newspapers in South Carolina declared that a black Republican had taken control of the government, a man they believed would destroy the institution of slavery. The fear spread like wildfire. The nation held its breath. But Lincoln, still in Springfield at the time, understood the weight of the moment. He wrote in a letter, "I shall not fail, God helping me." Yet deep down, he knew that the storm had already started. Just weeks after the election, South Carolina became the first state to formally secede from the Union. Lincoln watched the news from Illinois with a quiet, controlled tension. He knew that if one state left, others would follow, and they did. Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas all declared independence from the United States. By February 1861, a new nation had formed, the Confederate States of America, complete with their own president, Jefferson Davis. The United States was now literally tearing in half. And through all this chaos, Lincoln had not yet even taken office. Traveling from Springfield to Washington for his inauguration became a journey filled with danger. Assassination plots were uncovered, forcing Lincoln to alter schedules, change trains secretly, and move under guard. Critics mocked him, calling him a coward, but they didn't understand the reality. Men were willing to kill him before he even spoke a single word as president. As he boarded the train, he turned to his friends and said, "I know not how soon I shall see you again." It wasn't drama. It was truth. When Lincoln arrived in Washington, he saw a capital city fortified like a military camp. Soldiers patrolled the streets. Cannons were placed on rooftops. Government buildings were barricaded. To many, it looked like the end of the American experiment. And yet, on March 4, 1861, standing before a fractured nation, Lincoln took the oath of office. His speech was calm, pleading, almost fatherly. He told the South, "We are not enemies, but friends." He swore he had no intention to abolish slavery where it already existed. But he also made one thing unmistakably clear: the Union was permanent, and no state had the right to break it. Still, the South did not return. Lincoln's first months as president were impossibly heavy. He entered the White House carrying not just political responsibility but an emotional burden no president had faced before. His office was flooded with letters from citizens begging for peace. Generals demanded troops. Advisors panicked. Newspapers attacked him daily. Some called him too weak, others too radical, and some said he would be the last president the United States would ever have. Then came Fort Sumter. A lonely island fortress in South Carolina's harbor became the center of national attention. It was one of the last remaining Union military posts in the South, and it was running out of food. Lincoln faced the hardest choice of his life. If he sent supplies, the Confederacy would see it as an act of war. If he abandoned the fort, he would appear weak and accept the breakup of the nation. After days of agonizing thought, Lincoln made his decision: he would send food, not weapons. A peaceful gesture, but firmness beneath it. In the early morning of April 12, 1861, Confederate cannons opened fire on Fort Sumter. The sky lit up with flame. The American flag shook in the explosions. The bombardment lasted for 34 straight hours. The Civil War had begun. When Lincoln received the news in Washington, he didn't shout, he didn't panic. He simply closed his eyes for a long moment, then said softly, "They have assailed our flag." He knew everything had changed. There was no turning back. The next day, Lincoln called for 75,000 volunteers to defend the Union. The response was overwhelming, thousands rushed to enlist. But the move also pushed more states out of the Union. Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina joined the Confederacy. Even the capital felt vulnerable. Confederate territory was only a few miles away, across the river. Washington could be attacked at any moment. As war began, Lincoln, who had almost no military experience, had to quickly learn the art of command. He read military strategy late at night, studied maps, and sometimes visited soldiers in their camps. A president who many mocked for his simple appearance suddenly became the strategist of a massive war effort. He listened to generals, argued with them, replaced many of them, and never stopped pushing for an army strong enough to restore the Union. But war came with unimaginable emotional cost. Across the country, young men marched to battle, families were torn apart, and communities were filled with fear. Lincoln often walked alone at night, pacing through the White House halls, carrying the pain of millions on his shoulders. His personal letters reveal moments of deep sadness but also an unbreakable belief that the Union must survive. Meanwhile, his wife Mary Todd Lincoln struggled under the weight of criticism and fear. Their young son Willie fell ill during these years, adding even more sorrow inside the president's home. Lincoln was fighting a war both outside and inside his heart. As the first battles erupted, it became clear that this war would be unlike anything America had ever seen. The North expected a quick victory, but the brutal defeat at the First Battle of Bull Run shocked the nation. Soldiers fled in chaos, civilians watching from a distance ran for their lives, and the myth of a short war disappeared instantly. Lincoln realized then that this conflict would be long, bloody, and transformational. Still, he refused to give up. He told his cabinet, "We shall nobly save, or meanly lose, the last best hope of earth." Those words weren't poetic, they were prophetic. The future of freedom, democracy, and the fate of millions of enslaved people depended on what happened next. By the end of 1861, America was a nation in flames. Cities prepared for attack, railroads carried soldiers day and night, and the sound of war drums echoed across fields and hills. The Union and Confederacy dug in for a struggle that neither side could escape. And at the center of all of it stood Abraham Lincoln, still the humble lawyer from Illinois, yet now the commander of a fractured nation. He carried no sword, wore no uniform, but his resolve became the greatest weapon the Union possessed. The storm had broken, and the true test of Lincoln's leadership had just begun.